by the time people listen to this, I'm just saying, it would have been my birthday.
Mm.
You know?
I was going to come celebrate, but I wasn't given the invite.
Yeah, with my family celebration. It's just us. Hey, man. Hey, guys, I got you a little something. This is a rock from the most farthest north.
Hey,
man.
Dude,
I love that rock.
That is not cool.
I know. It was just funny. He's just like waiting in the hotel. I've been so excited about this. He's like digging around. You're digging around in your pocket, and it's just this smooth stone. It could have been like just from your front yard. Honestly, the way it looks.
Before I walk in your door, I'm like digging around your patio, like trying to find a smooth stone.
But we don't see that until the security footage later. It's amazing.
You're like, that was really cool, babe. You're like, oh, that's weird.
That made it sound like I call you babe.
I meant like,
hey, that's really cool, babe.
Howdy, friends. Welcome back to your favorite podcast, That Would Be Rad, the podcast that majors in 80s and 90s nostalgia, comic culture, all things paranormal, and minors in retro video games, tabletop RPGs, pre-internet mysteries, and raising our kids to be half as cool as we were back in the 80s. I'm your host, Tyler Bentz, and this is your other host,
Woody Brown.
Hey, pal.
Hey, man.
Hey, give us a little, sing us a little Champagne Supernova.
I'm good, dude. Come on. I'm good.
Just to get us.
I'm sure we'll talk about that more on the Patreon, but for just everyone listening, if you have the chance to see Oasis, wherever you are, if you're in North America or if you're overseas, I'm telling you right now, you got to do it. They've never sounded better. I saw them in Chicago. It was absolutely phenomenal. Anyway, enough of a pitch.
And for those of us that aren't independently wealthy, like
come on.
Woodrow Brown the third.
Well, that's my dad, but okay.
The fourth. You can just check out a CD.
Go to Sam Goody or your local Turtles.
Borders.
Or Borders.
Dude, Borders was awesome. You remember Borders?
Yeah.
They had like the listening stations.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that's where I first discovered Death Cab for Cutie's Plans.
You just sat in there the whole time and just cried.
No, I just like stood in like a corner with like these giant headphones on. And then
just tapping your foot away, just looking at people every now and then, giving them the nod, like, all right.
Like, this is cool.
Yep. I'm a music fan too, okay? And I don't have headphones of my own at home. No.
We're all in this together.
Please keep walking.
We're here together.
Whew-wee. All right, man. Well.
We'll be right back.
That would be actually pretty hilarious. Well, dude, you know how I know you know how. And I'm sure our listeners by now have kind of caught on to sometimes you and I will have these ideas and we talk about like, hey, one of these days we're going to do an episode about blah, 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 blah.
Oh, yeah.
And then we never do. And
still haven't even touched on Roswell.
Yeah, exactly. But, here's the thing about that. It's like I just feel like that is just so oversaturated with a bunch of other podcasts that, we're fans of or maybe we don't care for. And so sometimes we just kind of glaze over that stuff because, we want to get to the stuff that maybe folks haven't really heard about as much or the things that, I don't know. That's not to say that I don't care about Roswell.
Yeah.
I definitely want to do an episode on that. It's easy for us to just be distracted. This week is actually a perfect example of how easily we get distracted about, or I should say, how we get sort of pointed in a different direction than what we had planned to talk about.
Constantly.
When we just get a random message or email. In this case, this email came in and I was like, man, not only is this guy doing something really cool right now, but I thought, we're so close to October. The weather's getting cooler, man.
It is.
I can't believe that wasn't the first thing you said.
Dude, this morning, it's so funny you're saying this. Literally this morning, I pulled out of our road, and it was the first morning that I did my whole, hey, girls, it's looking a little spooky. Because it had, like, the fog. And, yeah, it's coming, bro.
It's perfect, dude. I love it. And so, anyhow, this email came in perfect timing, okay? And it's from a listener named Travis. I'm going to leave his last name off.
Travis Walton.
And here's what he wrote. He said, "Hey, Tyler and Woody, y'all are some radical dudes, and I am too. I'm out here on the Appalachian Trail doing a through hike south this year, currently in Pennsylvania as I write this.
Wow.
I love hearing your episodes related to Appalachian horror, cryptids, and mystery. Would love to hear more episodes on the related topic or other states on the AT you haven't covered. Definitely saving the recent Georgia episode till I get down there to it."
Dude,
Anyway.
Travis, you are rad. That's amazing, dude.
Yeah.
Also, you sandbagging son of a gun, because, is this going to like jumpstart me into my Manly Wade Wellman /
Oh, it should.
Mignola?
I mean, I gave them to you for your birthday
Yearly.
last year, I think, right? Or Christmas. What was
Christmas,
it?
yeah. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome on so many levels. First, the fact, and any listener that doesn't know what a through hike is, perhaps, if you're living overseas,
I've heard of him.
Basically that means you're hiking through the whole Appalachian Trail, and you're going, in this case, he's coming from the north down through the south. It's, it can be very dangerous, as we'll kind of learn about in terms of what's out there. But it's a beautiful hike. I've hiked a fair amount of, the longest I did, I think, was back in high school when I did a bunch of 50 milers with my scout troop. And it's an amazing experience. For the through hikers, though, it's just next level. You have to plan so far ahead in terms of, because obviously you can't just carry everything you need that entire hike, So you have to kind of either have it shipped to certain sort of pickup stations, kind of,
Yeah.
and get resupplied there. There's different points off of the Appalachian Trail, I think, where they have stores and stuff where you could actually buy stuff, but you don't really want to rely on that, right? Because you never know what's going to happen weather-wise or whatever. So you want to be prepared. And of course, you don't want to be overly prepared and end up carrying. So it's like this fine line and balance of traveling as light weight-wise as you can, while at the same time having the things that you need.
Now, when you've hiked the trail, did you also have like the additional suitcase just for shoes?
Yeah, right. Dude. Oh, God, that's hilarious, man.
You just have like a secondary rucksack.
Yeah,
just with
and everybody's
shoes.
like, dude, I think your hiking boots are going to be all right. And you're like, look, man, you never know when you're going to need a set of Chelseas out on the trail.
You never know. You really don't.
Anyway.
Real quick, where does it end?
It ends in Georgia / starts in Georgia, depending on your perspective, I guess.
No,
but it ends at Springer Mountain, and it finishes in Maine.
Oh, Maine. Okay, yeah. That's what.
So it depends, kind of like I said,
where you're coming
your perspective, where it quote unquote starts and finishes. But Springer Mountain, Georgia, or
I knew
Mount
that
Katahdin in Maine.
Katahdin, huh?
Katahdin, yeah, Katahdin.
I thought it was up there, but
Doesn't know, never heard of it. Got it. Anyways, so as a sort of nod to Travis and a way to sort of usher in the spooky season, or a little bit of a preview as we get closer to October, when everything's going to be spooky, we are going to be talking about some of the strange creatures that people encounter on the Appalachian Trail. In the dense hush of twilight, somewhere near the moss-clad slopes of Chickies Rock, there's a legend whispered through the leaves. Locals call it the Albatwitch, a 4-foot-tall, long-limbed, hairy humanoid that moves like a silent ghost through the forest canopy. And it's got a taste for apples. So the Albatwitch are these like lithe and wood-dwelling creatures with arms that reach, listen to this, nearly down to their ankles.
And this is a Pennsylvania thing, right?
Yeah, it is. It's Chickies Rock itself is actually West Hempfield Township in Pennsylvania, and this is like right around. I'm sure Travis is either just about to get there or past it already, but he's gone through there. So we'll have to see. Hopefully he writes us again and tells us if he ran into any Albatwitches.
Nice. Yeah, I know of this because of I've heard Timothy Renner talk about it. And there's I think there's an Albatwitch festival up there too.
Yes. And I was going to get into that, but I appreciate you bringing it up now.
Okay. Spoiler.
So they have these really long arms, which I don't know about you, but something about that just increases the spookiness vibe dramatically.
Yeah.
Anytime there's any kind of oops, that body doesn't look
right,
typically human, then it's just freaky.
It's like that uncanny valley thing. I think it's part of that. It's like where the proportions aren't quite right.
Right.
They
have shaggy, reddish brown, sometimes nearly black hair, and eyes that gleam red or yellow in the dark. Now, by day, they vanish among these, moss-draped pines, and by night, though, they descend to raid orchards and even picnic baskets, stealing apples, only to return the favor by chucking the cores at the startled humans. Some say that they communicate in these owl-like whistles, clicks, and hollow hoots, a secret language to kind of coordinate their mischief. Now, it's interesting because so often I think we have talked about that trickster archetype.
Oh, yeah.
And so this one, let's a little bit more of the origin and folklore here. So the name Albatwitch or Albatwitch supposedly stems from Pennsylvania Dutch roots for apple snitch or even apple elf, reflecting both its thievery and Tyler's favorite, its fey quality.
Yes, sir.
Some folklorists suggest that the legend may have merged native Susquehanna stories of small forest hominids with European wood spirit myths from German and Dutch settlers.
Yep.
Some colonial records even reference little men of the woods guilty of stealing from gardens and farms during lean winters. Now, here's some eyewitness encounters, relatively modern. So again, Travis, be on the lookout if you haven't already passed. And you know what? I also like to think, especially on this trail, so much of the environment is relatively similar. And so I think it's fair to say that although maybe they have a unique or not unique, but a more common habitat or home, or maybe a higher concentration of these things are found in a certain area, I think it's fair to say you might be able to see or you might encounter some of these throughout this trail.
I mean, I know that you're kind of saying that
sounds insulting, but go ahead.
No, sort of tongue-in-cheek a little, but
no, I'm being serious.
Well, I mean, I'm totally agreeing. I kind of think that in our modern age where if we do go outside, it's within a very small distance from our sort of insulated living, home. I kind of think these people that do this and that do these kind of trips to where they're they're kind of going beyond the everyday comfort zone. And I kind of think that this really is the best possible way that to have the possibility of actually seeing these things,
Well, yeah, and you're so far away from typical civilization, and you're out there potentially alone. Whew. I mean, again, man, it takes a lot of sand, in my opinion, in a good way, to go out and do that. Anyhow,
also maybe don't carry apples.
Yeah. For sure. All right, so here's some of the, I guess, relatively recent eyewitness encounters. This first one happened about, 23 years ago, so still feels like the other day. And this happened on a frigid February dawn along Route 23. The paranormal author Rick Fisher nearly struck what he thought was a child. So he slows down, and what he discovers is this gaunt, hair-covered figure. It's about 5 feet tall with these glowing yellow eyes. He sort of flashes his headlights, and the figure locks its gaze and then vanishes into thin air.
God, so many of those kind of stories.
Yeah, remember that one? This actually reminds me of those guys in South America, and they saw that that creature like kind of swooped down at him. You know, that's kind of the visual that I had.
Well, the thing that's strange about this is like it's one of those things to where, and it's like one of our, for our longtime listeners, I just said long Tom, me low boy long time. For our longtime listeners, that the concept that like sort of European or like early settlers over here would bring their like folklore with them, and it's that sort of Neil Gaiman American Gods thing, and this was sort of born out of like a Pennsylvania Dutch kind of settlement, I believe. So I like the idea that like maybe they weren't even local here, like maybe they were sort of brought over.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Well, it always, I think when we think about it, we think of it in terms of, like you said, the Neil Gaiman thing, where just like thinking about them, talking about them, bringing that story kind of gives them power and
like a toll
in that sense, sort of like life. But what if, I always love the idea, similar to like, what was that? That recent sort of vampire movie where it's just the ship. I forget what it's called.
I didn't see that. Was it good?
It's pretty good, yeah. I like that, it's super entertaining to me, that idea that what if these creatures were just like hidden on a ship?
Oh,
and they're just like, release. It's just terrifying.
Well, and what's crazy is like, okay, let's take it one step further. Let's put our riding hats on. And what if they had several crates of apples on the ship to bring over to, obviously plant apple trees.
Yeah.
And to sustain them on the way over. And like, because these things are like so fond of apples, like maybe they're rustling up like piles of apples and they didn't realize they had a few juveniles in there. Albatwitches.
I'm going to take it once. Is that it?
Go further, pal.
Okay. What if, and I'm saying it out loud here, and this episode's going to live on forever, so that if someone ends up writing this, we're going to sue them.
Yeah.
But what if Johnny Appleseed, dude, wasn't some guy that was just planting apples?
Monster hunter.
He was going after these things, dude.
Yes, sir. I knew immediately where you were going.
Dude,
that's amazing.
That's amazing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, we're probably going to cut that out.
No.
That's a good idea.
I mean, yeah, it really is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Should we cut it out? I'll tell you what, listeners, if you want us to write that, hit us up. Okay. Yeah. This next one happened April 13th, 2024. Not too long ago.
Whoa. Yeah.
In the dim forest near Fishing Creek Nature Preserve, a hiker started to hear these like really weird and odd sounds and smelled sort of a wet dog smell. When he ventured out of his car, his headlights caught the sight of a pale monkey-like face just 10 feet away, peering from behind a slender tree. It stayed motionless until the witness blinked, and then it melted back into the night, leaving only that pungent odor behind. Now, what's interesting about that is that sounds more like, an account where, and we'll talk about some, Bigfoot or skunk ape or whatever. Anytime there's that sort of like musty, wet dog kind of smell. But that is also true for a lot of these sort of quote unquote wood-based creatures,
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to imagine that no matter what it is, if it is some sort of offshoot of, just another sort of local version of Sasquatch, you're living out in the elements. You can't take your clothes off and wash them. They're, on you at all times.
Right.
So, it's going to be gross and smelly and like a wet dog pretty much. So that's pretty interesting. One of the things that I was going to ask you is, for some reason, I didn't think that it was entirely like just another Sasquatch. Like I was thinking that it was like kind of something else.
Yeah. No. I just said like I meant that specific sighting kind of reminded more of a Sasquatch. No. To me, it's not really. It's more of just like a weird. I'll tell you what it reminds me of, and I think it's in the name. Honestly, is it does remind me of some sort of like, I don't know, like a feral, like a witch.
Yeah.
like a hag, an old hag kind of tale. Some of these other encounters potentially were, and we'll talk about this celebration in a second, but the Albatwitch Day trolley tour, they do like a trolley tour. Some visitors claim that they saw 5 pairs of glowing red eyes that were tracking their passage among the treetops. In this trail above the Chickies, the Columbia's preservation director, Christopher Vera, found these weird barefoot footprints. They were small, he said, around like a size 6, basically, but with these like really long and large toes.
That's just like...
And they were heading from one stand of trees to another as if it was made in a hurry. Which also reminds me of the thing that my brother saw out on that peanut field. Do you remember those prints that I sent you?
Oh, yeah.
And in this case, it didn't say anything about, 6-toed or 3-toed, but his were like really long toes, man. It was very strange.
The 6-toe thing is like really interesting to me because that to me that sort of has like a Nephilim, early American giant kind of thing,
right?
So
like Tyler mentioned earlier, this is since 2014 in Columbia, Pennsylvania. They have celebrated this Twilight Trickster with what they call Albatwitch Day every October. Okay, thousands of people stream in for lectures, live music, cryptid-themed, celebrations, and trolley hunts up to the Chickies Rock with apples in hand, hoping for that eerie sight of red eyes skimming the treetops.
Wow.
Last year alone, over 5,000 people attended this. And, of course, people just trading wild theories ranging from escaped circus primates to juvenile Bigfoots and others talking about something even more supernatural. So it's interesting, man. This is one of those that, I can't quite, put my finger on. But I will say this. If I was out in the woods and I had a couple fresh, crunchy apples in my backpack, I'd be pretty scared,
Yeah, for sure. One of the things that it kind of reminds me of is it's from the Old Gods Awaken, or the Old Gods Waken, I'm sorry. You know what I'm talking about?
Man, it's been so long since I read that.
They're kind of like, they're not quite like Bigfoot, exactly, but it's like, they sort of have like slightly sort of ape-like faces. They're kind of covered with hair, but they can kind of like blend into the shadows, and there's like a very sort of paranormal element to them. It also kind of it reminds me of some of the early tellings of Merlin, like King Arthur and Merlin.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was we think of him as sort of, 80s kind of, or Tolkien-esque sort of, he was a wizard kind of thing. But in some of the sort of iterations, he's more of like a wild man, and he's like covered in hair. And, some people sort of think that like, oh, well, maybe that's where some of the sort of the Sasquatch kind of lore originally even came from. Like,
wow.
Like maybe it wasn't really hair, but like it was partially like moss mixed with hair. And then in a lot of other cultures, again, like when we say witch, we think of, witchy kind of stuff, sort of in the West. But a lot of sort of cultures, when you say witch, they think of this sort of more of like a sort of a hairy thing that lives out in the woods. That's more akin to like half monster, maybe half some sort of hominid, human kind of thing.
Yeah, it's weird to think of Merlin like that. Although, like, I mean, a wizard or a druid, somebody that's like really just like in nature.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, me too.
Well, we've got a lot more to go. So buckle up.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
There's something out there waiting for us. And it ain't no man.
Hey, this is Woody.
And this is Tyler. And you're listening to That Would Be Rad.
And now back to our show. Now, this next one is really, I'm only going to mention here because it happens to be my favorite cryptid. And if you're a listener that's been listening for, all the way back to season 1, then you know this answer. Like if there was ever a game show that was created to guess Woody's favorite cryptid, you would be right if you said the Flatwoods Monster.
I thought you were going to let me guess.
Oh, well, no, because you should already know, and I'm afraid that you'd get it wrong.
The Flatwoods Monster.
He got it. You know me so well. So, for those of you who have never heard of the Flatwoods Monster, otherwise known as Braxie, cast your mind back to September 12th, 1952, in Flatwoods, West Virginia. The air crackled, and locals swore that they saw this huge hulking figure, red, hood-shaped head, luminous glare, dark body under the forest trees with claw-like appendages. Newspapers fed a frenzy, radio ran the story, and skeptics, of course, emerged. But today, the legend lives on, and there's a local museum, and whenever I passed through there, it was closed. Very disappointed.
Pretty sad, yeah.
I want to dive into it more, and it's my favorite, so I had to mention it here, but I want you guys to definitely go back and listen to our entire episode that we dedicated to this awesomely rad story back in season 1, episode 34, the Flatwoods Monster episode. So definitely mark that down.
Also, the fact that this is coming out the week of September 12th is kind of wild.
It's also my son's birthday, which is kind of cool. So maybe he's like an extension of the Flatwoods Monster.
Oh, wow.
Now,
I like that.
All right, this next one I hadn't actually heard of, but deep in the silent hollers of Pennsylvania's hills, they say something pale moves with unsettling speed. A creature draped in long white fur, sometimes upright, other times slinking like a ghostly figure. Locals call it the White Thang. And some whisper it might be Pennsylvania's elusive albino cousin, a Bigfoot. So let's talk about the appearance of this bad boy. These cryptids stand between 6 to 7 feet tall. They're cloaked in this thick, snowy white hair. And some sightings, like I said, describe them to be walking on 2 legs. Others describe them sprinting on all 4s with eerie fluidity. And their presence is often announced by a scream that sounds like a blood-curdling woman's wail.
Yeah.
The sound is described that it'll send chills along your spine after it fades. And then there's the smell. This one is a little bit different, though. It's a rotting sort of fish stench that lingers like a warning in the night. Some folks have said that they'd be walking down the trail, and then it's almost like they're punched with this scent right in the face, and they just get that weird, eerie feeling. We've talked about that before, too.
Oh, yeah, like the Oz effect.
Yeah, it's like you have, it's almost like in our sort of...
like fight or flight.
Yeah, response, and in our genetics, really.
Yeah.
Weaker than it used to be, obviously, when we needed it. Or I should say we're less attuned to that feeling.
Right.
And we maybe just ignore it more now. Or it's the same feeling that we get whenever you're like turned around at the haircut place, like take a look, and you're like, okay, you know what I mean? Best face ever, dude. And I'm sorry to do so many asides here, but that was never mind. I'm not going to go into it. Okay.
No, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, like, anytime when we were in the band and stuff, and we would just like we would go like get our haircut and make sure it was like cool. And like the best thing that ever happened is if the person just didn't quite get yours right. And I'm just waiting for it, like next to you. And they spin you around and your face, dude, it is the funniest. It's going to be forever like cemented into my brain. Because you're just like faking a smile. Is he going to cry? Is he not going to cry? He's going to be mad. But, oh, God. But he's also so polite.
Yeah, very polite.
Oh, dude, it's just, It's just so funny. Anyway.
Yeah, the funny thing is I mean, speaking about Oasis up top, we, for the new listeners, we had a band called the Modern Society. It was a big play on sort of the 60s mod movement. I literally have mod tattooed on the inside of my lip. We love that stuff. And so we had that sort of, not necessarily like early, but like a little later, sort of like the early 70s Keith Richards, longer fringe version of kind of like the mod cut sort of thing. And for some reason, every time I would get my hair cut with a new person, and I would bring them photos of, you know, the Keith Richards where he's wearing like the scarf and he has like the aviators and he's, you know, leaning against like the Say No to Drugs, you know, poster. I would show them this picture. So I'm like, leave it long. And every time they would just do the super early days, like, I don't know, like, what would be the, like,
I mean, it was almost like it's like you were pointing at that, but then they saw, what's the bass player's name? For the Stones, the one that died, Brian Jones.
Brian Jones.
They would see like Brian Jones, and so then they were just like blow dry, like perfectly smooth.
Yeah,
and they just spin Tyler around, and I'm just like, just going, oh boy.
No layers, and then the bangs would be like mid
Straight
forehead,
across, man.
straight
Just-
across.
And I'm just like, yep, you got it. She did good. She did real good. Anyway, man, back to the cryptids.
Wait. Side note. This is something that does pertain to the cryptid. You know what's interesting about this? So I've heard about this for years, but I just thought it was another sort of variation, like I was talking about earlier. You know, the Yeti is in cold weather. The skunk ape is in Florida and like the swamps. You know, the white thang is probably some sort of like albino kind of variant. But the interesting thing is when you said that it had like, it would move like an unnatural like fluidity, I think you said. It's interesting because it does remind me of, do you remember when I saw that thing kind of like floating
Yeah.
below like my
Look in your backyard. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we thought we associated that with a woman in white.
Right.
And people can listen to that episode here.
Hear more about this rad story on That Would Be Rad, Season 2, Episode 7, The Lady in White.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there definitely wasn't like any kind of like gate. I mean, it was, what's weird is like the way that I described it is exactly how I found another person talking about it in a forum, like, I mean, years and years, I mean, literally like 16 years ago. And they said the same thing. They were like, it moved like it was on like a track, like a train. Like it looked like it was just sort of floating like over the landscape kind of thing. Like there wasn't a gate. There wasn't like, you know, like its
Yeah, it was almost
shoulders.
like, yeah. A track is like, you know, really good. It's almost, like what you would picture a ghost to do.
Yeah, right.
Float straight across.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And in that, I remember, and I say this on the episode, but I think in this forum, they mentioned, and I think I actually found this also. I probably need to go back and look. There's probably more information now, but something about, like, this was the first time that I discovered what granny magic was, or the term granny magic. And they had talked about that was like a thing in like sort of Appalachian lore, and they called them like white shadows.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I need to go back into that because I haven't tried to find anything for years. I mean, it was really sparse back then, but I mean, you know, with the amount of like podcasts and stuff, I could probably find some stuff now.
Yeah. So here's some eyewitness encounters that are pretty interesting. So in 2008, a chilling video surfaced showing a white furred silhouette moving swiftly through a wooded area near a mine reclamation site. You know, those mines, man.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a second. The figure's proportions, long arms, pronounced brow ridge. Now, before you say that reminds me of Woody, suggested something more than a hoax, okay? It darted from view just as the camera captured its face, of course. Folklorist Rosemary Ellen Guiley, who, you know, if you're into this kind of stuff, you've definitely heard of her before.
Oh, yeah. She's a champion.
She recorded 2 bone-chilling cases. The first one where a hunter heard this scream. like I mentioned before, it's almost like a woman's agony. Before all of a sudden a white creature tackled him down a slope, but then left him unharmed, though he claimed to have felt teeth and claws that were deep into his flesh.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe he just didn't taste that good, needed a shower. In the 90s, she recorded this next one. In the 90s, an ex-Navy seaman, Ed Rollins, chased the legend of Mothman and instead stumbled upon a 7 to 8 foot tall beast near a creek. The creature had white shaggy fur, a dog-like head, single-point horns, and human-esque hands. He watched, paralyzed, until it vanished into the darkness. Now, how crazy is that, man?
Wow. Yeah, that's... So I'm looking now, and, like, a lot of people seem to think that they're... Like, they sort of apply the term, like, forest spirits on these things. Which, you know, really differentiate it from, like, just another Bigfoot, you know?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
White Thangs, or the broader category of white things, aren't confined just to folklore from what I read. The southern variant we call, apparently, sheep squatch, or white thing. It's particularly associated with the Point Pleasant, West Virginia, though. Again, in West Virginia, we've talked about this countless number of times.
Oh, yeah.
It just is a hot spot for just cryptids, UFOs, a lot of rad strangeness.
Window area, for sure.
Yeah. Folklorist Ruth Ann Musick first recorded such tales in the Telltale Lilac Bush in 1965. Some theories suggest two distinct varieties. One, a hominid with horns, and another, a more beast-like quadrupedal creature, perhaps akin to like an albino deer or cat. Others speculate about environmental contamination, you know, because of the Point Pleasant's TNT plant aftermath that, you know, again, ties into the Mothman lore and perhaps sheep squatch sightings as well. Skeptics kind of point to misidentifications, nighttime fear and wandering, you know, wildlife and all that kind of stuff. But I'm sure that's true for any and all of these creatures.
So, not to derail, but as you were reading, I was just looking into like white thing and like white things, and some people call the white things, they call them shadow walkers. They've been documented in the region. One person who saw them described them as articulating their limbs but gliding when they walked. And then in another tab I looked up white shadow, Appalachia. This says humanoid shadows. Some residents report seeing white or pale humanoid figures moving jerkily or gliding through the woods at night, sometimes with blacked out eyes. Some of these are similar to shadow people, but are described as being distinctly white instead of dark. That's crazy, dude. I mean, that's literally what I saw.
Yeah, for sure. Man alive.
And I wonder if you know, you have that theory of, you know, I think we talked about it whenever we had the boys from Sozo Bear on, but the therianthrope, where like the shape-shifting thing, and it's like, oh, it's just like a long process. So we're seeing like, you know, we're seeing it in the middle of like changing or whatever. So I wonder if like maybe the thing that I saw is also able to also have the form of, you know, some sort of like more muscular, more articulated like Bigfoot thing, or some sort of like dog type creature like these other sort of accounts are having, you know? Yeah. It's really interesting though.
Yeah, man. And especially what if this is just a ghost of Bigfoot? And that's what it looks like.
Oh, I mean, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Next up, just as an honorable mention, because it kind of blends into, number one, what we just talked about, but also just more into that, again, not that I wasn't interested in it, but just was interested in some of the others that I found, is the skunk ape. Now, typically I would say when I associate skunk apes with location, I'm thinking more Florida, right? But for those of you that never heard of them, these Bigfoot cousins are these like stinky, you know, hence the name, sort of reddish brown colored bipedal, you know, Bigfoot cousins basically. And typically, again, for me, I associate them more with like the Florida swamps. There's that famous video. I say famous. Tyler knows what I'm talking about. There's that video of one where it's an alleged skunk ape, and it's just like ripping bark off of or like hitting a tree. It's in the middle of the swamp. Remember that?
Yeah. It looks like it's like, any of our Bigfoot fans, which I'm sure there's a lot that listen to the show, like tree knocks. It looks like it's kind of doing that.
Yeah. And it's kind of scary. I mean, like in terms of if I'm imagining I'm the person taking that video.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's a lot of folks that give a lot of grief to, well, why didn't you get a better video? Mm-hmm. It's the same with, I thought about this the other day when I was running through my neighborhood. It's dark outside. I've got a stinking headlamp on my head. And I'm thinking, like, if a Bigfoot walked across, I would be brave enough to try to get a picture. But at the same time, this is a wild creature, or at least a creature that has strength that is greater than mine. Mm-hmm. If I call attention to myself, my first concern is getting the heck out of Dodge. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I don't know. Anyways, that gets on my nerves.
Yeah, right. but also, like, I do kind of have the thought, and we talked about this with Joshua Cutchin on our interview a while back, but it's that, him and I've already mentioned Timothy Renner, but they wrote the book Where the Footprints End, and it's sort of applying sort of a more sort of supernatural or paranormal aspect to the Bigfoot mythos. So instead of it just being a hairy, upright hominid, some sort of like North American wood ape ancestor kind of thing, there's some sort of a little more paranormal, a little more like, floaty, ephemeral kind of aspects to this thing. So I do believe that there's something in them that prevents them from like being seen. And I don't know if the mechanism is it almost like acts as like a warning sign. Like it's almost like they have like a spidey sense. Mm. They're like, I got to get out of here. I can't be seen. Or if they're able to, whatever we're looking at, they're able to sort of mask us from like kind of seeing them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because there's so many times where people will report like their electronics stopped working.
Constantly.
And of course it seems convenient, right? Mm-hmm. Of course it does. And I get that. But also, I don't know. It's just interesting. I think it's kind of cool. If there is a creature that evolved sort of far enough away from human evolution to where they can disrupt radio signals or electronic signal, and we've talked about how it's, the other frequencies of sound that is used and all these other things that we just don't have in our own evolution capabilities,
Yeah, I mean, we've sort of proposed the theory. I love this theory that maybe somewhere along the line in our timeline, we sort of broke off from another group of, I don't know, maybe they were one-time humans. Maybe this, it goes back to being like a Nephilim thing or being like a giant kind of thing. But I do think that there probably was a point to where, us and our sort of immediate ancestors sort of went the way of like modernity and technology and advancing. And the other way just sort of like went straight into nature. So they, all of those like sort of senses that we look at as like, sort of psi phenomena, like, ESP and like that kind of thing, that I think that stuff probably comes natural to them. Like it's how like the idea of like ley lines and like the sort of the way that birds know exactly where to fly, when to fly, south for winter and north for summer. It's like, it's just this sort of like knowing that they have because they're living like in the land. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's fascinating. One thing before we move on from Skunk Ape is beyond like the Patterson Gimlin film, I think that the pictures that grandmother took, you know what I'm talking about? Of the skunk ape?
Oh, yes. I mean, that's the one that I think of most. Right?
I think those pictures are probably other than Patty, I think those are the best evidence of a Bigfoot creature that we have, because it is like straight up some sort of giant monkey, and it is so creepy looking. The other thing that's kind of crazy is like, I mean, the reason that she caught it is because she couldn't figure out like what was happening to her apple trees.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right.
So, yeah. And so she just like, and what's funny is like, you know, if you believe the story, I mean, obviously there's a possibility that everybody could be a hoaxer, but
Yeah.
the story goes is that it was this elderly lady, and I think her and her like grandkids or grandson, maybe it was just one grandson, I think it was kind of their bonding thing. They would go in there, would pick apples from this apple tree at the edge of her yard. And she started noticing that a lot of the apples that were like up high were disappearing. And so she couldn't really like figure it out. Like, you know, is it birds? Is it whatever? And so I think one night she heard some like rustling in the bushes, and then she went out on her porch, and then, you know, she can't see anything because it's like pitch black, but she just has like I don't know if it was like a Polaroid, but it was just like an old school 80s, 90s like flash camera. And she just flashes one, zip, zip, and then flashes another. And yeah, if you guys have not seen these photos, you need to look it up, because, man, it's kind of crazy.
Especially when you think of it being like a little old lady.
Yeah.
And that's what she sees, you
Yeah.
know? Because it's like you see the fronds of whatever that is, saw palmetto, right?
Right. Yeah,
and it's just like the face is just emerging from that.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds me too, my son and I went and camped down in Florida one time. And that's what you see in these campsites. You know, it's just like, it's such a different environment than what we're used to up here in North Georgia.
like the Everglades or the Okefenokee.
Yeah, this was more like it was right on the beach. And so it was just like sandy and saw palmettos, and it was just weird, man.
Yeah.
And seeing this picture, it's terrifying. And
Yeah.
I just, you know, I hate it for that little old lady.
You know, there's another, man, I wish
What's funny is I had like a little, like 1 or 2 sentences about Skunk Ape.
And then here we
And
are.
we just, here we are.
Last thing, there is one encounter, or sort of a like eyewitness account, where I believe it was like a little like Boy Scout troop or Cub Scout. I don't think it was Cub Scouts, but they were like kind of in the swamp around, I think, the Okefenokee, maybe South Georgia, getting into Florida, and something like in the middle of the night, like they felt like something was like hitting the tent or something, and the scoutmaster gets up, and we need to find it because we'll talk about it on a future episode.
Yeah.
But that's like another big one, but unfortunately I can't think of like the details. But yeah, it's pretty fascinating. I think the swamp thing is a kind of a perfect ecosystem for them, because it's just so sort of like desolate, but there's tons of stuff that they could kind of like, you know, eat on, and but nobody's gonna get through there because it's so difficult to like get through, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, difficult terrain, as they say.
We will return after these messages.
It's a pretty cool place if you're a Martian.
Or a vampire. You think you really know what's happening around here, don't you?
Is anyone out there?
We're fighters for truth, justice, and the American way.
Hey, this is Woody.
and this is Tyler, and you're listening to That Would Be Rad.
And now back to our show. All right, this next one I had absolutely never heard of, and it just sounds so cool. So they say that he moves like a shadow with a limp. The dark silhouette that drags through the Balsam Mountains long after dusk. Hunters called him Old Slewfoot,
Whoa.
the bear that no hound could hold, a legend etched in North Carolina's mist-wrapped peaks. Now, Old Slewfoot is described as a bear-like creature, massive and muscular, but distinctly bearish, with one heavily injured paw that gives him a twisted, dragging gait. He's elusive, yet marked by fearsome power. No pack of hunting dogs can keep pace with him. And what's more is his tracks sort of tell the tale. One foot slides behind the other, dragging or slewing through mud and leaves. In the 1950s, hunters set up a claw trap high up on Balsam Mountain, North Carolina. They waited, breath fogging in the cold air, until the trap snapped shut. But when they returned, they found a 3-legged bear in a ruined trap, evidence that their quarry had chewed off its own limb to escape. And now it's said that that maimed bear was possibly old Slewfoot. The local game wardens estimate the behemoth could weigh over 600 pounds. Hunters reported seeing huge paw prints, some bearing claw marks, others smeared into tree trunks, places where he scratched, possibly sharpening his claws or leaving his scent. The smell that lingered in these hunting pits was unmistakably him, a stench of musk, old fur, and the wild. One hunter recalled the oppressive atmosphere of a ravine where Slewfoot stalked, a narrow, brush-choked trail that was lined by skeletons, fragments of prey that the bear had hoarded. The last straw came when the hunter's dog fell into a natural, funnel-shaped waterhole, this slick-walled pit surrounded by remains. The hunter raced in, plunged his arms in to drag the struggling pup out, and the instant that he did, that lingering stench of death and fur brought this flash of recognition to him. And they all kind of knew at that moment that Slewfoot was near and he was real. What's interesting is the name Slewfoot caught on, again, not just for the tracks, although it really makes for an awesome visual and a really cool sort of creature feature if I was going to make a movie. Not Cocaine Bear, it'd be old Slewfoot. I mean, we're just giving people so many ideas. We're going to sue you. We're going to sue you.
Gold.
So not just from the tracks, but because this bear or the legend sort of slid almost invisibly through the woods. In Appalachian vernacular, Slewfoot became shorthand for any cunning, elusive bear that slipped through the traps with uncanny ease. In some circles, Slewfoot is woven into a broader tradition of forest spirits, ancient guardians, whispered to protect the sacred hollows from human intrusion. While the documentation is kind of sparse there, the resonance sort of remains that Slewfoot isn't just a beast, that he's this eternal forest's warning that some paths are not ours to tread. Now, in North Carolina, you've got a heavy Native American population, a lot of lore. And so I wonder, is this like a remnant of some of those oral traditions, you know?
Yeah.
Is Slewfoot simply just a bear with this, you know, extraordinary survival instinct and a bad paw? Or is he something older, more uncanny, more, you know, of the forest itself?
Right.
You know?
Right.
I don't know. It's like I said, it's amazing. It's kind of a cool. So like in so many of these types of creatures, of course I love cryptid stuff. Of course I love the paranormal stuff, which I don't think we're going to have time to get to today. But I also love the ones that are just like sort of almost bridging that gap. And this one is sort of, I don't know, man. There's just something so real about it. And just imagining this just furious bear that lives out in the woods that is old. And maybe when he was younger, he got his paw like chopped off by a dang bear trap, and he's just kind of dragging that thing around. He's just ferocious. And man, I just don't, it's just really, really.
Or.
Okay.
What if, putting my riding hat back on.
What if that's what Johnny Appleseed turned into?
He is Johnny Appleseed Slewfoot. No, what if it originally was sort of a powerful and strong sort of, you know, before they had any sort of human habitation, it was sort of this spirit of the woods kind of thing, kind of like Princess Mononoke kind of vibes.
Right.
And when the early like fur trappers came in, it ended up like trapping him, and he had to get out. And so he is like this sort of tormented sort of, you know, I don't know, I can't think of sort of the trope, but it's like your character that's like this sort of tormented forever to walk along where once he was this sort of mighty spirit of the forest, and then, you know, technology and expansion came, and now he's relegated to like hide in the woods, and he has to take the form of like just a bear, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I like that. Or like me, you know, there's just so many ways you can go. All I know is, you know, in this case, Travis, but anybody else that's hiking out in the woods, if you see some crazy tracks like that, I mean, you might want to steer clear because he's not ready to be friends just yet.
Yeah, I do like the idea of seeing tracks with like the drag. You know, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying, man. For like a movie,
Oh yeah,
man, that's really cool.
yeah.
All right. Next up, the Pukwudgies. Imagine the marshlet dusk creeping across the salt grass of Cape Cod. Something small, gray-skinned and oddly shaped, watches you from the shadows, but then gone the moment you blink. This is the realm of the Pukwudgies, the people of the wilderness, whose stories ripple through Wampanoag lore. Now, Tyler, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I swear to goodness, we've talked about these guys before. Did we mention them when we talked about the red caps? It's one of those words that I know we've talked about.
Maybe. I seem to remember that we talked about it early on when we were sort of talking about these sort of offshoots of like the fae or like fairies, you know, dwarves and stuff here in America. Because it really is sort of like a continuation. And I'm not going to say it because I know we're going to do a full show on it, but my goodness, this is exactly like this documentary that I just started.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're going to be talking about it in October. So
Yeah, for sure.
there you go. Little
teaser.
Wet your whistle.
Yeah.
Pukwudgies are often no taller than 2 to 3 feet. They're humanoid, but I think if you've been here long enough, you would say that they're unmistakably fey.
Yeah.
They're hunched with smooth gray skin, oversized ears, and even elongated fingers and noses. Some tales even describe spines or quills sprouting along their backs, making them resemble porcupines from behind, but half troll, half human from the front.
Yeah.
They are also masters of illusion. They'll vanish at will, shoot fire into the air, conjure up poison darts, and occasionally shapeshift into forest predators like cougars or bears.
Yeah.
These are not mere sort of mischief makers. Again, here we go with the trickster archetype. But in Wampanoag tales, Pukwudgies originally assisted humans, sometimes with helpful magic, until jealousy drove them to darker deeds. I swear we talked about this dude in the...
No. I think you're thinking of the Hudson Valley stuff, like the little dwarves that would they tricked all the shipmates with like the alcohol and it sent them into whatever, but then they were also kind of like helpful at the same time.
Yeah, man, it's not. That's so weird because it reminds me so much of the red caps in a sense and that kind of thing. But again, maybe this is just one of those.
I think it is, dude.
You know,
it's everywhere.
Overlaps that occur. Folklore says that they once targeted Moushop, the culture hero giant, even killing his sons or him in some different versions. In later stories, they, of course, came in, abducted children, lured victims off of cliffs, blinded travelers with sand, and even set villages aflame.
Yeah.
The Wampanoag narratives and those of other Algonquin peoples present Pukwudgies not as isolated monsters, but as a tribe, organized, magical, and deeply connected to the natural and cultural tensions. And that's part of that is one of my favorite sort of things that occur in some of these stories is when it's more like so often we talk about creatures and stuff in a more sort of singular sense, you know, just as these solitary creatures off on their own. You see one of them, you know, you don't really get to see the rest. But the fact that they're just like this tribe of creature is just the best, man.
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, I think this is probably similar to some of the characters that we saw, like, arrive with the Fomorians, that kind of thing, where it's like you have this sort of like dwarf kind of stuff going on. You have these weird sort of like animal hybrids. I think they were also known for shooting like poison arrows, which is interesting because that's similar to, which was a big thing in that book that I read, the fairy tale. But it's similar to a thing called elf shot, which is where, sort of in like the British Isles, they would believe that like the fairies, would shoot at humans, and you would feel like a super sharp pain, and a lot of time like the area would immediately become infected or like poisonous kind of thing. So yeah, the overlap is kind of crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's our favorite thing here. So in Freetown State Forest in Massachusetts, which is part of the famed Bridgewater Triangle, which I'm sure we'll do a full episode on that one too.
Yeah.
They kind of talk about these different tales of paranormal sort of misfires, unexplained suicides near ledges, potentially getting pushed off the ledge, like in the folklore, and sightings of small, glowing-eyed beings believed to be pukwudgies. In 2023, a woman was walking her dog at dawn and claimed to see this matted fur humanoid with glowing eyes at the wood's edge. Following nights brought strange scratching at her window and silhouettes outside and persistent tapping. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, dude. I mean, and again, it does make you kind of wonder, like, were these also brought over, again, Gaiman-esque, like figuratively, or even
maybe they were already here, man.
Like physically. Oh, yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean, you do.
Well, especially since the Native American lore had them in their zeitgeist,
Well, but to me, like, it's interesting because it feels like the indigenous people are just kind of explaining in a different way, like the same thing. So yeah, maybe they were already kind of everywhere,
Yeah, and like existed when there was just like a continent, before, if you're looking at that theory of continental drift and that.
Well, so I have a theory that even could go back even further, where I kind of think that, you hear tales of, with like the Fae, you hear of like fairyland and stuff, and like, don't go looking, don't follow the sound of a crying baby or a screaming woman in the night. They're just trying to trick you and lure you into fairyland. And then if you're there, you're dancing, you're having a good time, then they offer you a drink, cue Joshua Cutchin's A Trojan Feast. If you drink or you eat a food offering from these things, then you're trapped there forever. I like the idea, and I don't know if it's even an idea other than something that I came up with, but I like this idea of, it's like, even with like Bigfoot and stuff, it's like it's kind of like they're living like with us, but they're kind of like in a dimension over. And so like, maybe that's how they survived like the flood, if you go along with that, that belief system. So that's how they survived. And then the waters go back down, and then, they're able to kind of go in and out, which is kind of the way they kind of roll anyway. It's like you see them 1 minute and then they sort of disappear out of existence.
Man.
And they're just sort of blipping in and out of our reality. So yeah, maybe they've been around for longer, and they are all kind of the same thing.
And I've been, because I started finally, I started reading Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, the Philip K. Dick book that Clay gave me finally. I've been meaning to pick it up. Anyway, and I also, it's just like this week has just been heavy with this kind of thinking. Clay also emailed us a video of this speech that Philip K. Dick did on existence and potentially it kind of melts into my time travel ideas and stuff, and it's just absolutely fascinating. I think we're gonna essentially remaster the audio so that we can deliver a better sounding version of this interview so that people can, and just put it on our YouTube, because it's just his ideas, the things that he's saying is just very, very fascinating.
Oh, he was so ahead of his time.
Oh, man. And well, I mean, he kind of attributes it to this event that he had where he thinks that he essentially
Yeah.
saw a parallel or another existence,
Well, I think
or
that
dimension.
and I
But
don't know.
hold on. So
Okay.
also simultaneously this week, and I'll kind of come back around to why this is relevant to the Appalachian Trail, but simultaneously this week, I rewatched the first season of the OA because my wife watched it while I was gone to Chicago and just binged it. And she's like, dude, I completely forgot about this first season. We never watched the second season, so catch up, basically. And so I did. And just this idea of other realities and that being sort of associated with sort of the next life, regardless of your religious beliefs or non-beliefs, it's sort of like, in a way, man, it sort of unifies all that and makes us all like the same in that. Imagine, and I can't even do it justice, we're just gonna have to get that Philip K. Dick interview on the YouTube, but all that to say, maybe all of these things, all of these creatures, all of this stuff, sort of, we are living in a reality that somehow, some way, some of that was leaked into our reality.
Right.
Or maybe we have artifacts left over from another reality. And so those artifacts are just barely different enough to where we're like, wait a second, that doesn't seem right because, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so anyways, some of these creatures might just be, I guess, the result of that, which is interesting to me.
Oh, you mean like a, what is the term? It's something memory. It's almost like a memory that's like a remnant left over in our DNA of like a prior sort of
Kind of, yeah.
world or civilization where maybe that stuff existed then, but it doesn't anymore.
Or it has, or it does, because that's the other thing, because like time, we think of it in terms of linear, where the way that Philip K. Dick is explaining it's not, and you can exist outside of time, and then once you are able to kind of like learn how, essentially you can just move about, almost like...
it's like that retro causal.
Yeah, it's like, imagine that you could just like move anywhere in time and witness any event and through all of the different possibilities,
I mean, that's remote viewing, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just wild. And in terms of it, like relating to the Appalachian Trail and stuff, is maybe some of these areas, West Virginia, for example.
Window areas.
The window areas, the TNT mine in West Virginia, places like this.
Bridgewater Triangle.
Places like this are like where, I think we've said this before, the veil is thinnest, or where like the thing that's keeping us from just sort of walking into these other potential outcomes and realities is just like the weakest right there. And that's why things can kind of intersect and all of that. And so when you're on this Appalachian Trail, Travis, you're just out there amongst those areas.
You're in it.
Man.
Yeah, I mean, I do, again, going back to sort of my idea that they sort of exist in this other dimension, it's like maybe that's where maybe all of these things are able to, because they haven't sort of given up or sacrificed certain parts of their brains or their thinking or intellect, for like forward movement and technology and stuff. And so like they're able to like feel ley lines, and they're able to, there's sort of, we've talked about like, shamans back in the day, like would they be modern day like schizophrenics? It's like if they were back then and they, would they be able to like sort of tap into all that stuff that you hear of your ancient medicine men and stuff?
Right.
But it's like, I like that idea that like maybe all these things are able to just sort of pop into this pocket dimension that's like, next door. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's wild.
We'll return after these messages.
America's future can be determined by our dreams and our visions.
It was very intense, bright light.
For over 200 years, there have been reports of giant man-like creatures.
From another dimension, another world, I don't know.
The most intriguing mystery on the North American continent.
This is Joshua Cutchin, and you're at my home for weirdness. That would be rad.
There's a legend that still stalks the river roads around Grafton, West Virginia. A hulking, headless thing locals call the Grafton Monster. This story starts late, 11 p.m., June 16th, 1964. Reporter Robert Cockrell is driving home after his shift, and he's cruising down Route 119 and Riverside Drive, right alongside the Tigert River. He kind of rounds a curve and taps the brakes hard because something is lumbering across the road. At first glance, it seems like, a bear, this bulky, massive, moving thing with heavy, deliberate strides. But then, and you know how your mind works, where it's like your mind is able to kind of take a picture of something, but whenever things are going fast and adrenaline hits and stuff, as the moment's occurring, you're able to kind of really pick out certain details better. Mm-hmm. And that's when the details kind of start to hit him. The creature is entirely white, not brown or black, and its hide isn't furred, it's oily and slick, kind of like a seal skin catching the beam off of his headlights. And where a head should be, there's nothing. There's just these colossal shoulders and arms mounted on two powerful legs, kind of trudging through the light. As it crosses, an unnatural, high-pitched shriek rips the night, somehow coming from a thing with no mouth. The creature slips into the tree line, and Cockrell sits there, stunned. Then he spins the car around to grab colleagues from the newsroom. Of course, they're skeptical, probably making fun of him and chalk it up to his exhaustion. But still, he convinces them to ride back and take a look. Now, out there, remember, this is, when I say it was 65? Yeah, it's 1964, so they got these crummy flashlights that, they're metal and they get hot,
Yeah, you constantly have to hit.
Yeah. Their flashlights kind of find this swath of trampled vegetation and massive footprints that lead toward the road. Then they hear twigs snap in the dark. Then the shriek again. For them, that was enough. They pile back into the car, race to the office, and then they kind of just agonize over, do we publish this and risk our careers, or do we just keep quiet?
Yeah.
So Cockrell files it, and by morning, Grafton wakes to headlines about a lumbering, headless monster on the Riverside Road. But instead of ridicule, the town is riveted, and the story ends up going national. With the attention comes trouble, though, because caravans of drunk local monster hunters pour into the woods at night, and police start patrolling, breaking up trespassers, and restoring some semblance of peace. City authorities try to tamp it down and sort of walk back Cockrell's account, but it's at this point too late. New sightings keep surfacing, and this makes any official sort of backpedaling pointless. Mm-hmm. One witness years later sends the press a blunt account, and it said, "I've seen the creature called the Grafton Monster several times when I was a young man, and it is very real. My first encounter was I was with my father cutting wood. The dog started barking, going crazy, and something big was coming closer, and it wasn't scared of us, the dogs or the chainsaws. Dad had me grab the 10 gauge with double-aught buckshot. It stopped maybe 50 to 55 yards out in the trees, quiet. Dad cocked both hammers and stood in front of me. Then it stepped out, looked at us, took 3 strides toward us, and then turned and walked back into the trees. My second sighting was 2 months later at night, fishing all by myself. I spotted him on the opposite bank, and I got the heck out of there." Nearly a decade later, another call, this time from a campsite fisherman. Grafton police arrived to find a soaked, shaken man pulled from the river, still lucky to be alive. He explained that he'd taken a small boat out to fish when something heavy began bumping the hull. He checked the bow, and there was nothing. And then the stern shot skyward as something erupted from the water. In the moonlight, a massive, pale creature, the same headless hulk Cockrell had seen, thrashing and smashing the boat with its huge hands. The fishermen hit the water, panicked, and fighting not to drown while the beast tore the craft to pieces. And all of a sudden, it slipped back beneath the surface, leaving the boat splintered in the river, eerily calm.
Wait, you said it like went under the water? Like, interesting.
So it broke up the boat. I mean, this reminds me of, what is it, Friday the 13th, like 4 or 5, when he just like busts out of the water and he's like on fire.
Mm-hmm.
So it slips back beneath the surface, which equally terrifying, right? If you're on the surface of the water and this thing just like sinks back down, what the heck, man? All right, so now the boat's just splintered. It's like floating in the water. Everything's, this sort of, path of destruction left behind.
Mm-hmm.
The rescuers haul him out, and the only evidence left were the floating planks of his boat.
Man.
And since that first night in 1964, the Grafton Monster has lingered at the edges of headlights along the Tiger on the curves of Riverside Drive, a white, seal-skinned bulk with no visible head, 2 mammoth arms, and a scream that doesn't need a mouth to curdle blood.
Wow.
Terrifying.
So 2 things.
Okay.
Number 1, in 1966 were the first sightings around the TNT factory in West Virginia of Mothman. The original sightings look nothing like the statue that they have, which is kind of the artist definitely had like creative license, but the original ones said that there was no head, that the head was like sort of in like the body, basically,
kind of like this thing
in the torso.
Yeah.
And I'm going to send you 2 other photos of these things that I discovered a few years ago in Blimmies, which are in like ancient like Egypt, and I think during like the sort of like the Middle Ages, and it's the same thing. They have these, well, it's a little different because the Grafton Monster, I guess, doesn't have a mouth.
Yeah. Or one that's visible,
Right. But these are basically like, headless, but then their heads are like in their torso.
Right.
So I find that really interesting that like, talking about like these overlaps, and it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It could be grasping, but like it is interesting that, I mean, especially the Mothman thing. I mean, no wings were sighted on the Grafton Monster, but it is interesting that they're 2 years apart and they're both these sort of massive creatures that seem to not really have like a head on their shoulders, but it's like in the torso.
Mm-hmm. And, Mothman and even the Snallygaster, those are others that, we'll have a full-on episode about.
Oh, yeah.
At some point.
Mm-hmm.
But, they deserve mentioning here because it's in the same area. It's Appalachian Trail.
Oh, yeah.
And or adjacent to it. So this next one, and we just have a couple more here, but these I have to talk about because, I mean, they're just awesome. Okay. So this next one's called the Raven Mocker.
Which, by the way, I think that's exactly the term I was thinking of in that Manly Wade Wellman story.
In the Cherokee tradition, the Raven Mocker is the most dreaded among witches or evil spirits.
See?
It's known to prey upon the sick and dying to steal away the remaining years. They emerge at night, often in fiery wing-like form, trailing sparks through the dark. Whew. Their piercing, raven-like call, more drawn out than a crow's, announces impending death. This also seems very Hellboy.
Well, I mean, that's Manly Wade.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
These withered, ghastly figures torment victims by compressing their chests, tossing them, and most horrifyingly, extracting their hearts without leaving marks on the body.
Wow.
They then consume the stolen heart, adding the victim's remaining lifespan to their own. In one tradition tale, a young hunter sought shelter in an abandoned home and awoke to 2 elderly figures speaking of stolen lives. From his hiding place, the hunter watched them roasting what smelled like a human heart. When he revealed himself and escaped, medicine men tracked and found the pair dead exactly 7 days later, burning their home to ensure they wouldn't return.
Also, how do you know what the smell of a human heart smells like? A little question.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Maybe
Okay,
he was
point.
a serial
Fair
killer.
point. Yeah, he's a serial killer. And he's like, yeah, these two people were the ones doing it.
Also, another gold mine of an idea. You're basically back in Indian days. Big Cherokee, thriving tribe, and there's a serial killer in the midst.
Oh, you're talking about
like within the tribe.
Wait, what do you... This is on the
No.
document?
I'm just throwing out ideas here for our writing caps.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, that is kind of a cool... Dang it. I'm cutting that out. That one's actually, Okay. In other accounts, man, this is kind of cool. In a lot of Native American traditions, but just indigenous people's traditions, they utilize enhancements to, I don't know, basically have visions and stuff.
Oh, like
moral of the story: they take some drugs.
They
have visions. They get into the spirit world,
like pharmacological.
Yeah, more common now, like people DMT and all these things. Okay, but in one of these accounts, these guys actually they were just fasting and probably for like a really prolonged period of time. All right, we're not talking like, hey, I had some cayenne pepper and lemon juice. We're talking like they're not intaking anything, and so their body. They're performing these rituals and they're having these visions. Well, some of them talked about seeing raven mockers that are gathering at graves and they started kind of coming toward them and they had to escape by sheer will to basically return to safety, which is just terrifying.
That is pretty terrifying.
Apparently, to most eyes, raven mockers are typically invisible, but skilled medicine men can perceive their true form. Should they be recognized, the spirit will die within 7 days. Again, like
dude, exactly what I was just talking about. The skilled medicine men, which could be the modern day, schizophrenic. Like he was like tapped in. So like,
or maybe like I see what you're saying. Like because I don't want to talk bad about people that have unfortunately schizophrenia.
No.
Maybe in order for folks whose mind, let's say, is working typically, they take a hallucinogenic or a psychotropic, and it opens up that area of the brain that a schizophrenic is already
there
open to. Yeah.
At all
and
times.
So then they can see these raven mockers
Exactly.
and or the things that exist in tandem with us we just don't see. Terrifying.
Super terrifying. It's like your whole life would be like a trip, like a bad trip, basically. One of the things that is interesting about the raven mockers is, from what I remember, I know in the old God's Waken book, it's like this, but I remember like looking into the raven mockers, and they're very like ape-like their faces are very sort of monkey-ish, which is kind of strange because this stuff is like derived from like sort of really old like Cherokee legends. And as far as I know, like how would they even
whenever you think of an ape in the Americas, the only thing that comes to mind is
Bigfoot,
the North American wood ape.
Right?
Yeah.
Same thing. Yeah.
Is that it? Okay.
No. I'm just saying it's interesting that like they were explaining basically like apes when that
to our knowledge they didn't exist.
It did exist, yeah, supposedly, yeah.
So other Cherokee witches, even those feared in their own right, kind of avoid the raven mocker even. And at their call, apparently, rival witches will scatter. In the Cherokee tradition, they say like pigeons when a hawk swoops. Which kind of gives you like a peek into like how powerful these things are and terrifying.
Right. Which also, it immediately draws like Skinwalker kind of parallels, you know?
Okay. The next one we're going to talk about are called the smoke wolves. Now, they're described as being night black, wolf-like beings with glowing red eyes that pierce the darkness. Their form, though, isn't always solid. In fact, many say that they dissolve into thin wisps of smoke when threatened or disappearing into the fog, making them nearly impossible to photograph or trace. These creatures are often blamed for livestock deaths and unsettling disappearances of lost travelers as they make their way across the Appalachian Trail. Witnesses recount hearing a howl that's not a howl at all, but more like a spine-chilling scream that echoes across empty valleys.
so, I mean, I feel like every single one that we've brought up has had this similar.
Right.
You know.
The only known defense, now this is for you, Travis, because it's important to talk about ways to ward off these kind of creatures.
Here we go.
What you got to do is you have to rattle chains as they advance. So I hope you brought some chains with you. Maybe some keys? I'm not sure, but it said that this cacophony repels them, however briefly.
Huh. Yeah, maybe like instead of bringing along like an additional like shoe bag.
Get you some heavy chains.
Some heavy chains.
Mm-hmm. So some have said that they see these smoke wolves, of course, as like malevolent predators, this shape-shifting physical threat haunting the Appalachian at night. But others regard them as potential spiritual guardians or omens, their smoky forms signaling a link between mortal and spiritual realms. In fact, in eastern Kentucky, and again in northern West Virginia, smoke wolves are sometimes viewed as spectral gatekeepers of the forest and protectors of sacred ground who appear in the rolling mist.
I mean, I've heard of woolly boogers and wood boogers, but I've never heard of smoke wolves.
Well, apparently, that's funny that you say that. They have kind of popped up in sort of cryptid hunting shows. In the series Mountain Monsters, the Appalachian investigators of Mysterious Sightings, or AIMS, tracked smoke wolves across Tigert Valley, culminating in intense nighttime hunts and sightings captured on trail cams. Their reputation as dangerous and elusive beasts was kind of, and it, I guess solidified in there.
Like it kind of feels a little like, all of like the Black Panther sightings, especially in like Britain, that's like a big,
right.
Because they just like totally don't belong. So, and there's that sort of ethereal kind of vibe with them. It's like, they see them 1 minute and then they kind of like will fade away or kind of like turn to mist, that kind of thing. I love that.
Yeah, same here. And it's interesting because here recently, I swear I saw some sort of
smoke wolf.
No, like the Black Panther kind of sighting. Somebody talking about it on the Appalachian, actually. So that actually gets us to our very last one that we're going to talk about today, and that is the Wampus cat.
Oh yeah.
Now they say she prowls the Appalachian at night, at twilight, a monstrous hybrid of woman and cat.
Dude, this is literally what I've talked about being in White County or Cleveland, Georgia.
So here's what's interesting, man. Described to be gliding on all fours or upright, like a stalker in the dark.
What?
Her glowing yellow eyes burn in the shadows. Her lament you hear before you see, and it chills your soul. This is the Wampus cat. According to Cherokee legend, the Wampus cat was once a beautiful woman who dared to spy on sacred rites meant only for men. So sexist. Okay, disguised in a cougar's pelt, she hid among the trees to watch forest ceremonies until the medicine man discovered her. And like any old asshole, cursed her. No, I'm just kidding.
Forever.
Yeah. Until
you better leave that in.
Yeah. Cursed her forever. I mean, like, come on, dude. Just maybe scold her, make the oatmeal tomorrow.
There you go, yeah.
It's like, geez Louise, man.
Dude, by the way, this has to be... What area is this from?
The Appalachian Trail.
Okay.
North Carolina. I mean, it really is kind of like one that kind of spans a large part. I mean, it's, within the Cherokee sort of footprint.
This has to be where that urban legend came. I've talked about numerous times as a kid, growing up in Cleveland, Georgia. Like, my Aunt Linda would bring it up all the time. My mom would talk about it. And it was that same kind of thing. It's like this sort of hybrid. This one was like half panther, half woman. I don't know like specifically what kind.
Well, I'll tell you
okay.
if you'll let me finish.
That's rude.
So basically, this guy curses her to become the very beast that she was imitating, right? Okay, so she's forever trapped as half cat, half human monstrosity. She roams, lamenting her lost humanity. Some versions sort of echo this origin and that her curiosity was turned to punishment. But descriptions kind of vary in terms of her physical traits and behavior and stuff. In some areas, she prowls on all four legs. In others, she stands upright, her claws long, fangs dripping, eyes sometimes reportedly green, but mostly yellow and blazing across the moonlit hollers. Folklorists once dubbed her an amphibious panther capable of swimming like a colossal mink.
Oh, wait a minute, though. Didn't we do another... wasn't there like another urban legend that we did where there was like a water panther? Yeah, dude. Indigenous people, underwater panther in the Great Lakes region. Yeah. Yeah, I knew we talked... Oh, we talked about it, I think, when you went to Michigan.
Maybe? Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Again, another overlap here.
Yeah, dude.
So people over time have blamed it on like livestock deaths, missing pigs, torn fences, slaughtered chickens. And, of course, during these flaps, especially in the early 20th century in Appalachia, communities would like arm themselves, set curfews, and of course, whispered amongst themselves of a cryptid stalking their flocks.
Oh, they'd have to like take watch, and because that was like that was everything.
Their livelihood, man.
Yeah, livelihood.
Or just the way that they ate. Maybe that wasn't their job, but having the farm would feed the family. Local lore frequently ties her to like witchcraft, and of course, that she turned vengeful because she was cursed.
She hates the patriarchy.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Huge.
I mean, who wouldn't?
Yeah.
All I was trying to do is see like what are these guys up to? Well, Ted, Ted the Cherokee told me to. Cursed. In Tennessee, children were told of her scream, half woman, half beast, to keep them from wandering around at night.
That's exactly the same.
It comes into that same sort of cautionary tale.
Yep.
Stay inside, don't go out late because the wampus cat will get you.
Yeah. What's interesting, though, is I've always heard the term wampus cat, but I never knew that it was this. I mean, this is like I don't know. If you've listened to every episode, I've probably brought it up like 20 times.
Right.
And not one time have I ever thought
Connected
that there was...
the dots.
Yeah, thought there was a connect. I thought the wampus cat was like more of like, I don't know why, but more of like a funny, like a jackalope.
Because the word sounds kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, but it seems like a jackalope kind of,
Like a mix of different creatures and stuff.
Yeah, like a tall tail.
These kind of things, though, this again reminds me of that theory that I had that you just, mentioned earlier, in that it's almost like she's stuck in between those two worlds constantly. Right. Like it's almost even more torturous if I imagine it being like she just can't be in one or the other. Yeah. And it's just like this constant transitionary phase. And it's just terrible.
In a liminal space, as they say.
I mean, that's just terrible to think of. So
yeah, it's almost
like medicine man, we've got this
like a purgatory type situation. Yeah.
Which is a really interesting way to think of it, Not to pat myself on the back, but I mean, you're welcome. Anyway, that's the last one we're going to talk about today, but I will say
that's it, Woody?
Well, because
it's only 2 hours.
Yeah, no. I, believe it or not, found a bunch of other stuff, Travis and listeners, that occurred in Appalachia. And honestly, next week I want to talk about it.
Yeah, dude.
But this isn't going to be about cryptids next week. It's going to be more about the paranormal and haunted things that happen out on the trail.
Man, we are giving Travis nightmare fuel.
He's by himself. He's listening to it. I'm going to put the sounds in. I'm sort of thankful and also sorry, Travis, that, that whenever you wrote us that email, I was like, you know what? I'm in the mood for some spooky.
Yeah.
It's that time.
Oh, it's definitely that time, dude. And if you also love this time of year and love these types of stories, jump on over and say hi on our Instagram. Drop us a DM if you have a story, your own urban legend, your own local sort of folktale, tall tale, Paul Bunyan type situation. Tell us about it. We want to hear about it. If it's more long form, you can send your essay over to thatwouldberadpod@gmail.com. And if you're brave and would like to possibly become a part of That Would Be Rad history, you can do so by leaving a voice memo or voice... I don't know. I never know what to call this thing.
I mean, just you can record your own voice over on our website.
Yeah, there's got to be a better way to say that. Over on the website, thatwouldberadpodcast.com. If you want to support the show, it means...
You're like that old man that's just like, you can leave a voice video on our page.
I did not say voice video. But if you want to support the show, you can do so over on Patreon. The Rabbit Trail. It's more of what you love. It's just an extension of the free feed, and it just means the world to us because it in these times with, inflation, job loss, blah, 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 all that stuff, all that boring, like, adult stuff, it can be hard to shell out more extra money on top of your Netflix and your Hulu and all that stuff. So it really does mean the world to us, and we're so appreciative and so thankful for our loyal best friends over there. Tell that weird friend about the show. Leave a 5-star review if you have the time. And I guess that's about it. Woody, you got anything else? All right. Well, we appreciate you. We love you. And as always,
be rad.
That's the way it goes. Time where I just needed some sunshine. You were already dead before you became a ghost. You always said our future would be a parade of flowers, but now all that's left is a single rose. That's the way it goes.
Granted. I like how I just get faster and faster.
I know. I try to keep it from happening. So for now, I'm just gonna be dead silent.
Like, is there anything else, pal? You're just like,
oh gosh, what a jerk!
What a jerk! All right, pal.
All right, yeah, well.
Shh.